And we're off and running. Well, hi there. Welcome to the first episode of Gears of Trust. I'm your host, Maynard T. Bear. And I'm a heavy duty mechanic and an auto mechanic. I work in northern Alberta at one of the mine sites on electric rope shovels and hydraulic shovels. I work within a rather large team, and I'm 65 years old this month, as a matter of fact, and that puts me 50 years in the workforce. This podcast that I've created has all come about of the friendships I've made inside the cabs of service trucks throughout the mine and over the summer, um, into the fall. My friends and I have been having some pretty detailed conversations in the trucks, and one of them mentioned to me that, hey, this should be a podcast. So I don't have a fucking clue about building podcasts. I've hit the books here for the last 4 months real hard. I think I've watched every video on YouTube. I went to the end of YouTube and I came back to the start of YouTube. I've learned to use AI software. I'm using about six AI software systems to put together a podcast show. So you're right at the raw start of this, and hopefully in 20 or 30 episodes, I should have it smoothed out. Today, I'd like to talk to a friend of mine, a new friend I've just made. He's come into my life, I'm going to say 3 weeks ago here now. He's my new team member, and I've been moved to a new shift at one of the sites here. So I was at a site to the far north. I was dropped back to a base mine, and lo and behold, I had a new partner. And my new partner is right on the other side of the screen. That's Shawn Steffanutti. And wow, we had some pretty good conversations. We're on for 14 nights. We met each other. So this is kind of the first time I've ever seen the guy in the daylight. So that's neat in itself. But yeah, I explained to him about the podcast, and he said he'd be gracious enough to do an episode with me. So the whole format of Gears of Trust is it's raw talk. It's mechanics using the F word as a comma sometimes, and we just like to talk about episodes we talked to truck. We're trying to bring that or duplicate that right here on the screen for you. So you can get me on Spotify now. I'm on iHeart. I have set up an Apple account to get on Apple Podcast. I'm on Buzzsprout, Podbean as well too. X. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Facebook. So there should be no problem seeing me, and I'll be dropping links in all those. My personal Facebook is where I keep my friends and stuff. What's called? If you want to be a person on one of my episodes, by all means, just message me on one of the social media platforms to see me on. I'm more than happy to entertain it. Look for tradesmen, specifically in mining or automotive as well. So we're talking welders, scaffolders, yeah, electricians, welders. I'll even talk to a welder in public. Hard to believe. And heavy duty mechanics, which is where my true love lies. That being said, speaking of where my true love lies, here's my new partner, Shawn Steffanutti. And Shawn, I'm going to get you to introduce yourself, and what's called, if you miss any spots, I'm just going to pop right in with a quick question. So let's give her.
Sure thing. Well, first off, thanks for the
You're up,
invite
Shawn.
and having me on your show. And yeah, my name's Sean, and I've been a heavy duty mechanic for the last 8 or so years. And yeah, been pretty interesting in the last 2 weeks of night that we were in that truck having those conversations. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah,
And
kind of cool, eh?
yep. Oh yeah, it's certain subject didn't have enough of 12 hours in a shift to have talk about everything. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, no kidding, eh? So you come from back east, eh, as a mechanic?
Yes, I sure do. I come from back east, and most of I spent about 7 years in Tormont back then, and now it's been
So
a
that'd
year
be
and a half.
that Tormont, that dealer is the equivalent of Finning here in the oil sands, right? So the Caterpillar dealer up here is Finning, so back east it would be Tormont is your predominant dealer. Is that correct?
That's correct. Originally, I used to work for Hewitt, but then Tormont bought him out in 2017.
Yeah. So Tormont bought them out in 2017, eh? So were you
Exactly.
were you in forestry? Were you in civil construction? Were you in mining, or what type of stuff were you doing back there, Shawn?
I was in the civil construction throughout the whole lineup, and in the last year, I was in mining.
Oh, last year you were in mining.
Yep.
So coal mine, iron ore. I would imagine or gold, eh? Underground, above ground,
No, iron ore.
iron ore, eh?
Yep.
Pretty cool. And then your life took a change, and here you are. You're out west here now, right? You
Yep.
settled to the middle part of the province, or well, actually northern Alberta, right?
Yep.
And your wife married, 2 kids, 3 kids, 4 kids, 5 kids,
3 kids.
3 kids. There you go.
3 kids.
That's a good, healthy family. So, what's the ages of the kids, Shawn?
We got one that's 9. We got one that's 3, and one that's just turned 2.
Oh wow! So Santa Claus is going to be really big over the next couple of years here.
Yeah, he might not fit through the chimney anymore.
Too
Too many gifts.
many gifts. Oh, the oil sands money. Too many gifts to fit down the chimney. Just have to put the fobs underneath the tree, I guess, right?
Oh yeah.
Wow. So I sent Shawn a list of topics that that he would feel comfortable, would like to grab by the horns and speak to. And the topic we're going to be talking about here today on Gears of Trust is the evolution of work ethic. Now, like I said at the start of the the show here, is that I've been 50 years in the workforce. I turned 65 this month. My first job was at 15, and I was working on an urban garage in New Brunswick, and I actually had an accident with a customer's car at the age of 15. So I wasn't even a licensed driver, which created a whole mess of things. But I come from a family of 10 kids, a good Catholic family back east. My dad was French, my mom was Irish, and we had 6 girls, 4 boys. And work was a big thing. And I know my work ethic from there to what it is today is a phenomenal transition, right? But this struck a chord with Shawn as well too. So, Shawn, let's take a look at you. Like work ethic, What does that mean to you in a nutshell?
Well, in a nutshell, I would sum it up to being your core values towards your pride given into your work, right? So the values that you attribute to a work and how serious you are and how you are determined to get the job done right and in a timely manner as best as you can. And that's pretty much how I would sum it up in a nutshell.
So, what type of work ethic do you have? Like from the start of your career in the working world, right? So, when you've left high school or college, the start of your working career, what was your work ethic like?
Well, my work ethic in my family was always about if you want something in life, you got to go work hard for it. And there's no really any ways to cut corners to get it easily. So whatever you do, you just have to work or work harder and get it. And whenever you accomplish something, well, you get a certain sense of pride in what you've just done. And mainly, yeah, this thing's really getting me nervous. I'm not fluent at all on camera.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, Shawn. We're just sitting in the truck shooting the shit, buddy.
Yep.
So, like, what was your first job? Anyway, okay, let's go back in time. What was your first job?
My first job was at 15 years old, flipping burgers over at McDonald's. I had back
Way.
then my plan of getting my driver's license.
Yeah.
And yep, and away I went into working at McDonald's, and I eventually paid for my driver's license, and I was more than happy of paying for something for myself without even asking for help. So yeah, that was
So you
a
weren't
great
working
time.
for praise, and you weren't working for the opportunity to work, and you had a target in mind and a
Yep,
thing to do,
absolutely.
eh?
Yep, an objective, and away I went to get it.
And you get the objective, and away you went. Get your driver's
Yep.
license. Bet you that caused you all kinds of grief, did it? All right, I'll take a little pressure off you, and I'll recant one of my little stories of the first job I worked, and I dropped into it a little bit at the start. And the guys up at Fort Hills and Base Mine are going to be looking for Maynard stories in these podcasts, so I'll give them one now.
Uh oh.
Uh oh, here comes Maynard's story. Anyway, 15
a
years
humble.
old. I'm working at an urban service station on weekends, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays in Moncton, New Brunswick. And I would work from 7 in the morning till 11 at night, Saturdays to Sundays, and after school from 4 to 11 on Fridays. A full day was $21 a day, and what's called the half days I think were like $10 or something like that. They weren't a great deal of money, but back then it was a great deal of money. And that money I made actually went to my parents because we had 10 kids in the family, and my dad was a welder feeding 10 kids. So I was allowed to have a job, but the money went back to the house. And so I'm 15. I think this is normal. So yeah, I'm go with it. So I keep bringing my money back to mom, helping out the family. So I'm doing a set of tires, on it was a 73 Dodge Polaris station wagon, right? It was maroon in color. This is like a fucking land yacht. It's like 400 feet long. It's got a 45-gallon fuel tank. It burns like 13 barrels per hour, just like that, right? These things in the early 70s, they took a lot of fuel. So I was putting on a set of Irving penetrators, which were snow tires with studs. We studded up the tires, all this. This is 15 years of age. And I took it off the hoist and back it out, and I cut the wheel too early. And guess whose fender bounced off the fucking door jamb of the fucking garage? Anyway, my boss is okay with that, so the guy from head office in Irving come in to see the damage. Well, this is where the story kind of goes fucking sideways because not only was I working at 12 years of age, I joined the Army Cadets. At 15 years of age, I lied my way into the militia. I was supposed to be 16 to join the militia. Well, the fucking, wouldn't you know it, no shit. The fucking guy that's the manager for Irving Oil in Moncton, New Brunswick, just happened to be my warrant officer in militia. Yeah. So now he finds out that I logged my way into the militia now on top of this whole fucking scenario, eh? Anyway, the urban station to fix the fender, Keith Fury was the warrant officer's name. I was I was just about to turn, so that would have been the fall of '75 when I did this, because I'm born in '59, so every year, like, I'll be 65 for 25 and fucking 64 for 24, right? So I was just about to turn 16, so that would have been the fall of, because I'm putting on snow tires, the fall of '75, right? And he said, well, by the time I get this all processed through, you're going to be 16 anyway, right? So then they brought me up on charges, my first military charges at the age of 16 for lying about my age. Anyway, they kept me in there. That's another story. But so work ethic from back then, at that job there, what I would do, uh, I would actually be changing tires, changing oils. We'd clean police cars for the city police in Moncton, and we'd run out and pump gas. Back then, you had, get a load of this, the airline that went out and the bell went bing bing every time a car went in, and you had an old cash register like in the movies. You punched the buttons. I can remember pumping $5 of gas in the back of a Chevy Impala van with a cigarette in my mouth back in the day. Shit you not. But from that point in time, I knew work to me, my work ethic was full speed at all times. Right, it's always been full speed at all times. So, but that changed as you saw last week. That has changed.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
that has changed, right? Ironically, I
Uh,
make more money than I did back in '75. But anyway,
I
I'm
gotta,
gonna.
yeah, I gotta be honest. Sometimes you are hard to keep up with too.
All right, so Shawn, so your first job was at McDonald's. What was your work ethic like then?
Well, I guess haven't really thought about the question in so long, but my
Well, it's
main
an
fo-
entry level job. Did it set you forward to be working at a breakneck pace, or were you kind of like, oh, let's jack man around and get my free hamburger at lunch, and like, what type of worker were you?
no, well, back then I was working on the grill and flipping burgers, and sometimes going on the assembly line and assembling those sandwiches.
Yeah,
But yeah, no,
a
back
high
then,
paced and action packed, or is that kind of
oh
slow,
yeah,
or what?
oh yeah, no, very very action packed. I was always booked in the rush hours. And
So
yeah,
where'd you go after McDonald's?
after McDonald's, actually that's where my work ethics kind of went down the drain. I
You're a
I
mechanic
decided
that
that
early? No. Okay, sorry.
yeah, at
Okay.
a certain
There
point
we go.
there was some squabbles running around, and I got fed up of being in it, and yeah, I decided I would ditch McDonald's and go for St. Hubert, which is the equivalent
Oh,
of, I
St. Hubert
guess,
chicken. We had that in New
yes,
Brunswick. Yes.
oh
Yeah.
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 So I guess
Yeah.
it would be the equivalent of Montana around these parts of the country,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
Swiss Chalet,
Yeah. Swiss
and
Chalet, more like a Swiss Chalet. Yeah.
yeah, and little did I know, going over there and grilling meat and grilling brochettes, yes, skewers, I mean, and dealing with anything that's literally cooked on the grill. Little did I know that it was three times as faster paced than it was at McDonald's, and yeah, it didn't last very long.
Yeah. So, how old were when you had your first burnout, Sean?
Oh, I kid you not, I lasted 1 month.
One
I
month.
couldn't take it. Yeah, I was always booked at Fridays and Saturdays, and
Wow.
that's when you would get your 10 to 11 customer orders, and all of them are all taking something off of the grill, and
Wow.
you have to remember everybody's um, um, everybody's type of cooking. So
Yeah.
raw, not raw, but rare, medium, or well
Yeah.
done, or
Yeah.
whatever. So you have to remember everything on top of preparing the plates, because the waitresses won't do it. So you had to put
Yeah.
the rice, you had to steam the vegetables, and take care of everything. Yeah, it was hard
Yeah.
to do alone.
And how old were you?
I was 16.
16. Okay. So 16, you
16.
said, fuck this. Where'd you go next?
One time I remember I had so much, I was really fed up. I also had to do these taco mixes, and you had to mix a whole bunch of ingredients like chicken, peppers, and stuff like that. But before doing that,
Yeah.
you had
Yeah.
to put in citric acid inside your pan to make like a little fire show, if I should say.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really went to town with that citric acid bottle inside that pan. And when I kicked it, it made a pretty good fire. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Disney.
it spooked all the customers that were in front of that window.
Nice. In front of the grill, eh?
Oh
Perfect.
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah, my
Okay. So,
work ethics,
chalk,
they went down the
chalk one
drain
up
back
to,
then, and I didn't take it. What's that?
we chalk one up to experience.
Oh yeah. So yeah, back then I once I got a taste of that, I started saying fuck this. I didn't start, not taking the job seriously.
Yeah.
And after I decided after a month, I said no, I had enough. Well, it took me 9 months to find another job again.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah,
Okay. So,
and I
what's
brought a
next?
lot of resumes. I brought a lot of resumes all over the place, and I just couldn't believe it
You
how
were
hard it
probably
was to.
known as the guy that burnt down fucking St. Hubert.
No,
In Rue de Flammable, eh?
oh
Fucking
yeah.
name of the street, no? Deadly.
Oh yeah. Oh, and after that, I found myself a job at a supermarket for bagging groceries, and
Yeah.
from there, I started taking jobs way more seriously. It's
Yeah.
when you
But
try
you're
for so
16,
long.
17, 18.
Yeah.
That's normal. But you were not entrenched into anything that forced you to perform at a high speed. Anyway, well, I guess
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
the fast foods that's a high pace. That's a
It's a
high
very
pace.
high pace. Well, back
Yeah.
then I
You're
didn't have all the commitments that us as adults
Yeah,
have
especially
in today's life.
for a
So,
young person at 16. Yeah, that is big, right?
oh yeah, that is.
That is big. Absolutely.
But
So
no,
where's your next major stop after the grocery store and bag and stuff?
major stuff. There's been quite a few. I've been mostly in the manufacturing world, and
Yeah.
there's been quite a lot of places that I've been at when I was younger. But I'll spare those ones. The main one was a company called Andritz Hydro, which was previously GE Hydro, and they built hydro turbines. And I was lucky enough to work there with my father, so that was kind of it was a nice
Where
thing
was that up
to.
Churchill Falls and stuff? For doing the turbines,
No,
or just
no, that was in Lachine, Montreal,
oh, the machine? Oh, so
and
you're actually in
so
the plant building the turbines. You weren't
yeah,
installing them into dams and stuff.
yeah.
Oh,
So the
well,
parts
that's
we
kind of
were
cool.
building would be the equivalent of what you find in a stator and an alternator.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So
we
you're
were just
winding.
building the winding.
Well, they must
And
be quite the size for a generator, like for they'd be pretty large,
uh,
large armatures, would they not?
the armatures they range. They all vary from one turbine to the other, but the average
Oh, really?
length was about 6 foot long,
Wow.
and the biggest one I believe was almost 8 foot long.
Wow. So you load that all up with copper and steel, man. What's that weigh at the end of the day? 2,500, 3,000 pounds?
No, well, we never got to assemble it because they are just like one bar, and there's close. I believe they said back then there's close to 1,000 of them.
Oh,
So
really?
picture like take like the rotor from a starter,
Yeah.
and all those little strands that you see all around.
Yeah.
Well, it was the same principle for hydro turbines. So your external winding is all individual bars that make up the whole circumference, and you got about 1,000 of
Wow.
those on two circuits, I believe. So one circuit and the other, and they're all linked through jumpers, which is a copper tube that's soldered to, I think,
Each
every
ender.
other. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's quite a project. I never got to see for myself a turbine, but we
Yeah.
that's the parts we assembled. And at that shop, I remember that I was also a shop steward, and that's where I started to getting deeper with unions.
Yeah.
And on a little side note, it's way different than what we're experiencing right now as what we saw as unions.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, very different. And the other thing that comes to mind when I bring these jobs up is the reference also towards work ethics. A lot of these places I've worked the majority of the time with older people, right? So being that I
Yeah.
worked with older people, uh, you learn. How can I put this? I noticed that working more with young people when I was really not in mechanics world, but in the manufacturing world, uh, get more of a competitive kind of atmosphere. And when you're working with older people, you get more of a cooperation atmosphere. It's kind of weird to explain, but
Yeah.
working with older folks, I got a lot of good tricks and pointers how to do your job properly, not the fastest, but properly, so you don't have to redo it. And when you would compare to people that just came in at the same time and you'd see their progress, well, they're all about showing off their worth and going as fast as they can. And most of the time, they would make so many mistakes that they have to redo everything they've done. So yeah,
So maybe a lot of that, Sean, is with the what the employer is driving, though, right? So let's take a look at you in the fast food and you in the building stators and armatures. There's a sense of urgency in the fast food world. It's now business. So that's going
yeah,
to change your work ethic into the go as hard as you can to impress the boss. Then when you go into building stators and rotors and stuff, then quality is more important than speed, and getting it right is going to be substantially more important. So 50 years of the game, what I've noticed, and you're touching on it pretty quick there, is that the younger guy getting into the market, especially if he's new to a job, he's always trying to establish himself within the marketplace or the workplace. I should say, not marketplace. Older fucks like me, like I'm 65. My career's coming to an end. So the best I can do is help who is behind me, right? And you get a little taste of that over the last 14 nights, which called that I'm there to help and do whatever I can for whoever. So I'm more into a servant role. Um, I don't want to be the manager. I don't want to be the boss. I don't want to wear a suit and I don't want to hide in an office. I want to get out there, do some stuff, cross thread some bolts, damage some shit, and hide the evidence. Right? That's fucking. That's the game, right? That's the game. And then I go home and fucking. I get this armored car, backs up to the truck, fucking backs up to the house, unloads a bunch of money, a couple hockey bags of money every couple of weeks, and fucking I'm good with it, right? So, but yeah, I see exactly where you're going. So let's take a look at the third point in our conversation here is that like how do modern employees view the concept of hard work? What do you think? Like so when we get those young guys coming to us, what do you think they think hard work is? So if I get a Gen A millennial comes to us,
Well,
what would they what do you think they would interpret hard work as?
I think that although I've grown up with a lot of people that had various um, perceptions towards that questions in my generation,
Yeah,
um, I think I can't really answer that because it all depends on the background you come around from. Like I've got a lot of comments saying when I was younger, saying like what that my generation are lazy fucks and nobody wants to work, nobody wants to get into greasy shit. But
yeah,
it all depends which family you come from. It all depends on the values you've got and if you've actually been given those values to actually, do something else than doing computers all day and videos. No offense.
yeah. So are you? So now, how old are you, Sean?
Right now I'm 35.
35. So if you get a guy 21 years of age comes to work underneath you to apprentice, how are you going to treat him?
Well, back then, when I used to train people at Tormont, I would try to give them as much as knowledge as I could because we were in an environment where quality was the number one thing. Being back then in the Remand Center in Tormont, um, you would try to do always the best component you can because at the end of the day, your name's on that component. So if there's something wrong, well, you're gonna have to fix it and blah blah. And you don't want to go through that grief, and you don't want to put anybody through that grief either, and set them up for failure. So every time I would get an apprentice, I would take him with me and just show him the ropes. And right now, I remember one of the apprentices that I had, I would even uh, go up to asking questions about seals. One of his questions would be giving him a J seal that he had to put on a piston on both sides, inner side and outside, when we were assembling transmissions. And I would ask him, look at the clutch housing and tell me how the oil interacts with the piston, and from there, tell me how you install the seal and how it would perform properly, or which side is the wrong side and how it will leak. So having them to think outside the box and looking at what they're looking at and trying to understand what they're actually assembling together and trying to understand how the components act together, I felt that it was uh, I felt that it was way more beneficial for them to understand what they're doing, and later on, you know, I'm losing my words. I'm really stressed out.
It doesn't that doesn't matter. See, so after you give them that guidance, what type of result did you see out of the guy?
Well, the type of result that I
Did he
saw
retain
was,
it, or was it too much information for him? I know I've spent quite a bit of time with younger guys in the trade going over the technical aspect of whatever repairs they were putting their gear in a pump drive or whatever, and I'd be talking along, and I can talk a fair amount by now.
oh yeah,
And I could tell when we're into the technical side of the street when I hit the point where I got white noise listening to me. The guy's zoned out. He can't take any more information. Uh, I find that with younger generations. Sometimes what I do is I'll leave them do it. I guess it was like what happened there with fucking Frank the other night. What was I letting them do? Oh, swing the hammer. I was letting remember we were pinning tracks together.
Yep. Yep.
We were pinning tracks together. We did one 15 tracks. And I give him like a 5 pound hammer. He's swinging and going ping, 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 ping. And I could tell like it's like -5 out or what, and like he's starting to fucking sweat, right? So I went over to the truck and I brought over the 20 pound. I said, yeah, look, I passed a 20 pound hammer because I think you were lighting things up when you were working with us outside. I passed a 20 pound hammer. I said, watch this. I'm going to punk. It went right in. See, there, try that. You fuck, that's a lot easier. Why didn't you show me that? And I just looked him straight in the eye and said, because you had to learn. And Jamie sat there, almost pissed himself laughing. But like I said to Frank, I can explain the mechanics behind a 5 pound, a 10 pound, a 20 pound hammer. Until you see it, you really don't appreciate it.
Yep.
Right? And so yeah,
But
I find
but
over the
you know,
years I've what
to answer your question though, I'm the type of guy that I'm going to be more of a hands-on kind of instructor. So there's not going to be a whole lot of information, but it's more going to be presenting you parts and telling me how to interact together. And from there, uh, I would just complete bits and pieces of what's missing as information. And I would always assemble the transmission with them and not them aside and, get them through the whole process. And I found that getting them involved earlier than just watch me do things and take notes was a kind of way to get them independent way quicker and way more efficient compared to other people that were, here's a pad of notes, here's a pen, and take notes and do it on your own next time or whatever.
yeah, yeah. Well, the guys coming to you as the apprentice, you should have a good grasp of theory anyway, right? Or
Yep.
say let's say 50% of his theory should be down pat and it can move along that way there. So, yeah, that's it with modern employees. Young guys need that guidance. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. The next question, I guess, about evolution of work ethic is remote work. Like, what does that do for your work ethic? So, you're out in the middle of the boonies in northern Quebec. You've got an excavator with a belt laying off the side, and the idler's all pooched. What happens to your work ethic then?
Well, I can't really answer that question because I wasn't on excavators when I was in North when
Well,
I
if you
was in
ever
northern Quebec.
have you ever been out on the road and you had a piece of equipment shit its pants? And now you're the only go to. You're the guy that's gonna make it all somebody's dream come true and make it breathe life into it. So what does that do for your
Luckily
work
for
ethic?
me, luckily for me, when I was on those drills for warranty, most of the time it would be reset the overload, adjust the overload, or swap it out with another tray. And a lot of the times it would be connection issues or anything dealing with electronics. So it was really simple. It was more the figure it out that was kind of hard, and then all the
But was there not
information.
a sense of urgency when you tackle those projects?
Oh yeah, there was literally no support. The only support you have was one PSSR from CAT, and the guy lives in Texas, and he would answer his email whenever he could, and that was your only support.
Oh, that's pretty brutal, eh?
If you would go through DSNs and actually speak to the whole uh, technical team behind the steps you're supposed to take with Caterpillar DSN requests,
Yeah.
you would get the kind of answers. An example, a hose that would rupture on the side of the drill mast, you would get a kind of answer saying, "Was there wind on that day?" Because I'm sure it was the wind that broke the hose. And like,
Yeah, yeah.
no,
I don't think so much.
But to leave them a fair chance, though, they did lose a lot of knowledge. I mean,
Yeah.
the product I was working on were originally Terex, I believe, and then
Yeah.
Bucyrus bought him out. Bucyrus didn't want the Terex team, so Bucyrus put in their team. Then Caterpillar bought Bucyrus, and then they didn't want their service engineers, so they canned them, and then they're left with little knowledge they have. So,
Yeah.
you know, for, to be fair, they're kind of starting from real far with that.
So it's kind of like you weren't calling the hotline for technical assistance, you're calling the lukewarm line, eh? Yeah. Yeah, pretty
You're
much.
calling the Jiffy Lube line.
Jiffy Lube, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, why? Brutal.
But to answer your
Another
question
topic.
though, it was yeah, there is certain things that yeah, you had to, get it to run and patch it up quickly and order the parts, and once the parts receive it, well, then you just fix it properly. Well, yeah, it happened very often.
Yeah. Every now and then, eh?
Oh yeah.
So, so evolution of your work ethic from McDonald's to this point of fixing drills. What's changed in your work ethic? Are you
I
more
guess
determined to get a job done? Are you more conscientious? Do you work harder? Do you work faster? Do you work slower? Do you work smarter? What do you do? What's different from the time you were flipping burgers to then?
the biggest difference is the sense of pride that I have and the pressure I put on myself being as a dealership. Uh, before getting hired by Hewitt, I worked really hard into getting that job. And um, once I got in, the first thing they said in the Caterpillar trainings were be mindful that whenever a customer machine is uh, presented to you in the bay, that there's a high chance that that machine has already been through 4 or 5, maybe 6 independent uh, shops,
Technicians.
and that
Yeah.
technicians, and they might have not found the issue. Now they're sending it to the dealership. So there was always this high pressure from the start. So back then, I was really, uh, it was a sense of pride of working for Hewitt. And I guess that towards that, I put a lot of pressure on myself with that. So it was always about, making the job right, while doing the job right, and making sure the problem doesn't come back and fixing the root cause, which is something you're
Yes. So
not really.
did, did that make you a better technician, or did that make you a more thorough technician, or did that make you a more more disgruntled technician?
I would say more thorough. Better technician is hard to say because you become a better technician over the years, learning new through your mistakes. But I would say more of a thorough technician, and rather than stopping at the first finding, you can go even further until you find the root cause of whatever issue is going on. Of course, in mining, it's not always you don't always have the time to do that. Get the
Yeah.
haul truck running as quick as you can or whatever. So yeah, it happens a lot of time that you have to patch it up just to make it work and come back to it later if you get the occasion.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So I'm going to take it way outside our usual norms of conversation. So, do you think the gig economy's got any play in our workplace today? That what you see around where we're at right now. Do you know what I mean by the gig economy?
Mm,
The gig economy is the side gig economy. So people, it's not quiet quitting, but people will come to work and are really not functioning 100%, and they might have a side gig going on where they could be flipping Bitcoin, they could be buying weed stocks, they could be selling perfume and panty liners, like they could be doing anything aside what we call a side gig, eh? Side gig economy equates for $2 billion, I think, annually in Canada. So we're talking a lot of bucks here. A lot of people are doing it, right? Um, that being said, have you ever worked with anybody involved in a side gig that's you know affected the work ethics and their standards at work?
mm, no, I couldn't say no, not towards that. I just want to point out my battery's dying. I didn't think it would drain the battery so fast. Well,
Ooh, okay. Well, do we want to shut this down here for today? And we can turn this into a two-parter. Not a problem.
yep, we can
How much
continue if
battery
you
you got
want.
left, my friend?
2%. Oh shit! Nope, you just into one.
2%? Okay. We're going to sign off. You can hop off the video feed here right now, and I'll close off if you want to, or you can just hang in. I'll do a quick little spiel. So this is part one of part two with Shawn. Shawn's going to charge his battery next time, and this is kind of impromptu last minute. Shawn, thank you so much for your time. Everybody, thanks so much for geez, we're in the 40 minutes anyway. You know what? This was only supposed to be a 1 hour episode. We're in the
Oh,
40 minutes already. It's not a bad thing to break it into two parts. Shawn, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for your time. Everybody that's listening in on the first podcast, I guess we'll drop a second one here right quick. So thank you very much, everyone, for your time. Greatly appreciate it. And we'll be looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Gears of Trust. Bye bye.